such a thing. Avoid cutting through source. Hi, my name is Lex Reyes, and I'm the resident woodworker here at CraftMNL. Today we'll be making a basic wooden box using some simple tools and simple materials that are available at your local hardware store or big box store. And also you can find the wood at your neighborhood local lumber yard. So now we'll go over some of the materials that we'll be using today. So we have a couple of metal rulers. These metal rulers are can be bought in places like National Bookstore. Then a speed square. You can buy this at a big box store. A pencil, a clamp, an F clamp, finishing nails, sandpaper with a grit of 120, a hammer, a Japanese saw or a dozuki saw. So this saw is a pull saw as opposed to a Western saw, which you instead of pulling it to cut, you push a Western saw to cut. And a handheld drill. Of course, we won't be able to do the box if we don't have the wood. So we have two sizes of wood, a pine in a size of 1x4 and another one in a size of 1x6. First thing that we need to do in making this wooden box is to measure and mark the wood or the pieces of wood that we have available. I usually like working with whatever I just got and base the size on that. So for today, we'll be making a square size wooden box, and the base will be the larger piece of wood, which is this is 1x6. The length is actually 8 feet, but I've asked the lumber shop to cut it in half so I could bring it with me in the car. So when they say 1x6, it's actually the rough sized lumber before it was smoothened. So this one is actually about 5.5 inches by about 3/4 inches. So don't be worried if you buy it undersized, if it's like this. So first is we'll measure the width of the wood, the larger piece of wood, and the measurement of the width is 13.6 centimeters. So that will be the basis of our side. So 13.6 centimeters times 2 would be 27.2 centimeters. So we'll measure it out. And then the way I like to mark it all the way through is I put the pencil on top of the pencil mark that I just made and bring my speed square towards that pencil mark. Why do I do that? I just want to make sure that the line that I'm making is accurate to where I put the pencil mark. Okay. So now you have your first line. So after I've made my first mark, I'd be cutting the piece of wood already before I make the second mark. Why I do that? Just to allow for the thickness of the blade to be taken into account before I make the second cut from the edge of that second piece. So how do I do this. I would clamp down the piece. If you don't have a clamp, you can use your hand to put it in place. But for this one, I'll just clamp it down and put it by the edge of the table with the mark hanging over the table. Okay. I'm using a Japanese saw, which means that I'll be doing majority of my cuts in the pull position. So using this saw, first I make a couple or a few marks using a push motion. When I'm already satisfied with the mark that I made, I start doing a push-pull motion. And with this one, I like to take my time to ensure that I'm making a straight cut. And I'm be mindful of using the full length of the blade to make my cut. And the way I handle a saw, it's like shaking hands with another person. So it's not too loose and not too tight. A nice thing when you're working with pine is that you can smell it as you're cutting it. It smells really nice. Since this is a small saw, I do change angles when I cut so it doesn't reach the top part, and if it reaches the top part and you're not yet done, it won't cut anymore. So I just have to change the angle from time to time. Now I'm near the end. I like to hold the piece on the outer part so there's support as I'm finishing the cut, and I slow down. Here. I have my first cut. So we've already cut two pieces for our base, and as you can see, it's fairly square. And now we'll be making the sides of the box. So two sides of the box will be the same length of the side of the square, and then two sides will be same length as the side of the square plus the thickness of the side of the box multiplied by 2. So twice the length of this plus the length of this. Twice the thickness of this plus the thickness of this. So we'll do that just by lining up the pieces of wood with the way we're going to use it. So this side will be aligned to the edge of one of the ends of the bottom square, and then we'll just mark it here on top. So that will be our first mark. And then we'll be using the speed square to mark it all the way through. Again, line it up. So put your pencil mark pencil first on the pencil mark, then line it. I'll be clamping it down again and we'll be cutting the piece of wood. So now we're working on the 1x4. So after that, we'll be measuring the next piece by using this piece as our guide, and we'll be making the second cut. Knots. So if you see something like this, avoid cutting through those. Why do we avoid cutting through that? It's a bit harder to cut through them, and it's usually harder to nail through that as well. So as you can see here, we've cut all the pieces and we've put it together to make it look like the box. But it hasn't been nailed together, so we have to prep it for nailing. So what we need to do is to mark the insides with a pencil. Just mark all the lines inside. have to mark where we want the nails to be. So I'll be making my marks. So the way I do that, I just use the other piece of wood and use it as a ruler to mark ends. And doesn't have to be perfect. And then I repeat with the other. So these two have been marked. And I will further mark it, but I'll do the others first. Next step would just be using the other ruler. Just make X marks so we know the center, and that's where we'll nail it down. So with all the marks that we've made, then we'll drill those. So why are we pre-drilling the holes before we nail it down? It's easier to do this rather than just nailing it through. A lot of people, I think, get discouraged when they can't nail a piece together properly. So this provides a solution to that. So what you do, as straight as you can do it, point it down, then start drilling through. So it has to go through. So I like to put a piece, another piece, so it doesn't go through the table but goes through the sacrificial piece instead. Sandpaper, then I fold it in half. Then I always sand in the direction of the grain. So if you sand across the grain, you're going to create scratches. So always sand in the direction of the grain. Done. And now we'll be putting it together. So now we're going to put things together. We're going to start off with one side. Just align it the best way that you can. Okay. Now we put the nail through. And then we get our hammer. Align it the best way that you can. Start nailing it down. When you hold the hammer, hold it at the end. First nail down. Another nail. So the purpose of making the holes earlier, so you don't have to hold the nail while putting it down. So the this put through properly.